We're going to get started. It looks like everyone's joined in. Welcome everyone to the Palm Beach North Chamber of Commerce's webinar today. Thank you for joining us with R&R Industries and the Palm Beach County Division of Emergency Management. Before I go over the bios, I just want to go over some housekeeping items. We have everyone in the mute form, so please do not unmute yourself throughout this webinar. Leave it to the speakers to have their the floor, and then at the end of it, we will go over questions throughout the webinar. If you do have any questions, feel free to submit it in the chat box, which if you guys look at your screen and hover over it, you'll see a chat icon with a conversation bubble. Click on that. You can send either a question to me, Brittany Cartwright, or to everyone. And we will go over those towards the end of the webinar. Now on to our two speakers for the day. We have first John Carr with R&R Industries. He is a storm restoration expert. John Carr is Vice President of the Restoration Division of R&R Industries, a commercial contractor headquartered in Central Florida since 1948. John will be leading the Restoration Division from a new office that will be located in Palm Beach County. Widely recognized for his restoration expertise, Carr brings many years of experience having worked on major projects throughout the state, including Hurricane Matthew, Irma, and Michael, to name a few. John assists his clients by managing the insurance claim process and putting together a team of experts to ensure that your property is restored properly and receive what is rightfully owed to them by the insurance company. A HAAG certified inspector, John possesses the resources to assess your property or damaged property effectively and with confidence. Also on our webinar today, we have Bill Johnson, who is the director of the Palm Beach County Division of Emergency Management. Throughout his 9-year tenure, he has guided the county in its response to several disaster incidents, including Tropical Storm Isaac in 2012, Hurricane Matthew in 2016, and Hurricane Irma in 2017. He has led his division to become one of the only 43 local programs in the nation to become an accredited emergency management program. Prior to Palm Beach County, Bill worked as an assistant director of the Broward County Emergency Management Division and assistant director for the Miami-Dade County Office of Emergency Management. So he's a South Florida man. Bill has developed to several major disasters, Bill has been deployed to several major disasters, including to New York City's Emergency Operations Center to assist with incident command after the 9/11 attacks on America, to Monroe County after Hurricane Irma, and to Calhoun County after Hurricane Michael. He is a registered nurse, certified paramedic, and certified emergency manager. Without further ado, take it away, gentlemen.
All right. Well, thank you so much. Appreciate everybody being on today. So a little bit about what we're going to be doing here today. We're going to go over a little bit about the new forecast from NOAA that we received, and supplies and documents, know your zone, have a game plan and what to do during the storm. And then we're going to, wrap it up with some questions and answers. So from last time, we actually had a little bit of an increase in what the hurricane season is going to look like overall. So this isn't broken down into the way we had it last time, where we had Palm Beach County and the different counties surrounding us, those percentages. But as you can see, they did increase a little bit. I think it was like 51% that there was going to be above normal season. So now we're up to 60%, and they're projecting 13 to 19 named storms, 6 to 10 hurricanes, and 3 to 6. So they increased it by 1 or 2. I just wanted to post that out there, that this is the latest one from NOAA. This came out a couple weeks ago. It's something very concerning, especially during the pandemic that we have right now. We want to be ready for this as much as possible. So some of the hurricane hazards that we're going to cover. I think this is real important that we look at some of the hazards that are out there. So you have extreme winds that we know about, storm surge, inland flooding, tornadoes, and post-storm injuries. And a lot of people forget about post-storm injuries. And I know Mr. Johnson is going to go into this a little bit about where the injuries really come from and where is it that people are not safe and that a lot of problems happen. And you'll be surprised to hear when Bill goes into his presentation where most of the injuries and where most of the problems will come up when they're during a storm. So these are the things we're going to cover today. And now I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Bill Johnson. Bill, I want to thank you for being here. We greatly appreciate it. I know you're slammed busy right now. And, for you to, take the time out to meet with us and do this for us, we greatly appreciate it. The Palm Beach North Chamber appreciates it. And I personally appreciate it as well. So, Bill, the floor is yours, sir.
Well, thank you very much, John. Really appreciate it. Really appreciate the opportunity. And again, I never turn down an opportunity to be able to spread the message. And I appreciate your willingness to help with that in that process. So our mission, of course, is to minimize the impact of emergencies throughout the county through education, which is what we're doing today, planning and response through coordinating information and resources, which is what we'll do throughout the year. It is important for us to remember that we are not the hurricane people. We're not just the hurricane people. Everybody thinks that we are. Right now, our EOC has been activated. We're in our 82nd day of activation. It's for COVID-19. We are also very closely monitoring all the protests that are going on, which is another one of our threats that we monitor. We look at 14 major threats around disaster threats, ranging from a nuclear power plant to, as again, communicable diseases to severe weather to hazardous materials and whatnot. So again, thank you for allowing us to talk about one of those hazards today. The next slide. We work together. It's just not just our emergency operations center here. We work together with a lot of folks. Emergency management our job is to bring people to the table. I have a small office of 30 employees. There's no way that we could do everything to get the community back on its feet after a major disaster. It takes an entire community to get back on its feet, and it involves a variety of people, stakeholders, and groups. So first responders, of course, the fire, law enforcement, public works, health providers, you name it. We work with them day in and day out so that we're ready to respond and able to respond. We work obviously with all of our local governments. Just before this call, I was on a call with our 39 municipalities. And again, we coordinate this COVID thing. I can't remember what number call this has been on, but we're working with our municipalities. We were doing daily calls. We're now down to Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. So again, we continue to coordinate all the time with our local municipalities. Our public, of course, is a very important part. If we don't motivate our public, then we've kind of lost that battle. But more importantly, today, I want to talk about how we can communicate and coordinate with our businesses and our private sector organizations. Next slide. And that's why it's important before a disaster, it's important that every business should have a plan. There's a lot of resources out there. You can go to our website, which is readypbc.com. And we have a whole section on our home site, our home webpage for the Division of Emergency Management on business preparedness. So you should be able to get, there's templates on there. There's a template for a COOP plan, our continuity of operations plan, and whatnot. But again, it's really, really important to have a plan so that you can identify the risks that you have that will impact your business and how you can prepare and prevent damage and protect your not only your business but also your employees. It's so important that you consider your employees, because as you well know, that employees are the backbone of your business. I always want to talk about how you prepare your employees is how essential that is, because a prepared employee is a resilient employee. We find time and time again that if employees are not able to respond to your business after a disaster, then your business is not able to respond after a disaster. And in fact, we see it now, 40% of small businesses don't survive after disaster, and we're seeing it head on right now during this COVID response. So it's really, really important that every business develop a plan that has preparedness and mitigation actions that work to ensure your longevity and your safety. Then not only just develop that plan, but also test that plan. It's not just enough to write that plan and put it on the shelf, but take that plan off the shelf and test it frequently. And that it doesn't mean that you have to go out and do all kinds of exercises and stop work for a whole day. But during staff meetings, maybe have a question, a 5-minute question and answer period about, what would we do if this were to happen? And just kind of discuss it just for a few minutes. And then the next staff meeting, what are some of the essential elements of your home personal preparedness plan? Or kit, should say, and those kinds of things. Or what are some resources? Just a quick question here and there to kind of get people to continually thinking about it, because again, a prepared employee is a resilient employee. Next slide. It's always important to stay informed. And again, we preach that time and time again, that when you during the storm and after the storm, you can continue to follow us on our social media. We send out information through all of our media channels. They are we have staff here from the with a small business industry groups, and we will communicate. They will communicate with the chambers. We have a variety of ways of continuing to communicate to our community through various media channels. The television stations will simulcast on FM and AM channels. So again, it's important to have, everybody's kind of abandoned the thought now, but you should still have, those transistor AM FM radios and batteries, because trust me, when the internet goes down, you're going to need those in order to stay informed during disaster. Next slide. After a disaster, work on assessing your damage, reporting your damages, of course, to your insurance company and whatnot. Pull that plan out and make sure that you're working to reestablish your business in a safe function or safe process. There's a lot that you can do after a disaster, but one of the most important things to do is to do it carefully and be careful not to do things too quickly. I know things, if you want to get back up and running right away, but try not to do things too quickly, because as I always say, there's the number one killer in a disaster, in a hurricane, is storm surge. But the number two killer in a hurricane is floodwaters. And then the number three killer in a hurricane is the post-disaster injuries. So if you evacuate and the surge doesn't get you, then be careful about all the standing water that is around. And then after that, be careful about all the other dangers that are around. So people falling off ladders, falling off of roofs. You'll notice that there will be a lot of traffic signals that are down. So there's a lot of traffic accidents and other unsafe scenarios, down power lines and whatnot. So be very careful after a disaster and in getting that business up. Don't be too speedy in getting that up. Don't be too careless in getting that up. But go back and go to you and open slowly. Make sure that you have everything safe for not only your customers but also your employees. We do have a reentry plan and that's on our website as well. It's a phased reentry plan. If we cordon off an area and exclude it, phase one means that no one is allowed. What we'll do is we'll have trained first responders in that area go in and make sure that the area is safe, and then make sure that all the threats are removed, so that all the gas leaks and the fires and whatnot and all the power lines are de-energized. And then the second phase, we will allow the primary businesses to allow, the essential businesses to go back in, but we will only allow the business owners and their coop people to go in. So their engineers, their maintenance people to go in and fortify the business. In other words, to make their business secure and get it, and to turn things off. We'll only let the pharmacist back into Walgreens to make sure that everything is secure. It's not to get it back into opening it. It's to secure the facility. During phase 3, that's to repair the business and get it back and ready to open it up. And of course, phase 4 is when we'll open it up. So there's various phases. It's all on our website, all good for you. So again, have an idea on that one. I can't stress enough how important it is for businesses to have identification for their employees, especially in that reentry phase in phases 2 and 3. So have ID cards. If you don't have ID cards, please have a letter that has their name on it and what their function is, and have it be current. You can't write a letter and have it be 10 years old. You should be writing letters every year. There's a sample letter on our website. I encourage employees to be wearing uniforms whenever they respond to their during curfews and if they have to cross through checkpoints. And I would encourage businesses to have marked vehicles. If they're not marked, you can use magnetic signage or whatever. But I encourage all of that to help improve that process, because 9 times out of 10 you may be encountering the National Guard, and the National Guard may be from anywhere from around the state, and they're going to have to go by multiple different multiple sources of identification for a person. So next slide.
Bill, do you mind if I ask you, not really, I guess it's sort of a question.
Sure.
It's so important. You talked about, when the damage happens and people are out there, what did you say? It was the third leading injuries, right? It's from when people are trying to repair their own property. And
right.
I can remember when Francis and Jean came through, all of us, all our neighbors, we just got together. We were going on roofs. We were, it was actually a little crazy now that I think about it, now that I'm in the industry and understand how dangerous we were really doing. It didn't take any liking to how close we were to power lines or any of those things. We're swinging hammers at 2 feet from a power line. That's not very smart. That are wet, by the way. So, would you suggest that when they're doing this, that they hire licensed contractors, not just us. This isn't just about R&R. This is about everybody. Any licensed contractor. There's so many people that when a storm happens, you're going to see, thousands of trucks come to town. And some of those license plates are going to be from Texas and Georgia and North Carolina. They come from everywhere. And that's okay, because we're going to need the help, right? Just like we need, peak energy to come in and help FPL. But is there anything that you would suggest besides that, when it comes to, having them, making sure that they're hiring licensed people?
Well, exactly. And I think that's all part of the having a plan process that I talked about earlier. And that is that make sure that you have those contracts beforehand. If you don't have a contract beforehand, then you're going to be, as you mentioned, everybody's going to be calling their contractor, right. and you're going to be in queue later in the queue kind of thing. Those people that have contracts are going to be in the front of the line. So it's important to have those contracts and work on that now. And as you all know, that your insurance company is going to require you to mitigate the damage after the storm. So you're right, John. They're going to ask that you do something. If you got a leaky roof, they're going to expect that you make some effort to put a tarp up on that roof. And the last thing you want to do, the last thing that a restaurant's going to want to do is have their bartenders and waitresses up on the roof putting a tarp up there. We need to have trained people up there, trained engineers up, looking at that roof to see if it can support people, and we do this safely. And so I agree that, this is the kind of thing that you need to be doing now, so that you can get those folks in place immediately after to help mitigate it. And again, mitigating it immediately after the storm gets you back on your feet a lot sooner. You get that tarp on that roof, you won't, it rains every day. in the afternoon, the less water damage you have, the less mold and mildew and further water damage you're going to have down the road.
No, that is so true. And they also want to make sure that they get people that are trained, not just for the safety part of it. That's obviously the most important. But the other thing is we've seen where insurance companies, if they mitigate it and then they don't properly document it, we've seen them deny insurance claims where it was literally damage from a storm. But because of the way they did the mitigation, the insurance company was able to come back and say, no, it's not covered because there was no proof of what it was like before, those types of things. So it's real important too that when you're mitigating, a lot of documentation, and and again, whether it's R&R or it's other companies or whether it's attorneys, whatever it may be, it's so important to document that stuff properly.
Yeah, and just simply before the storm, always just run around your business and take pictures on your cell phone, or before the just before you close the door and lock out, kind of thing. So
absolutely. All right, I'll let you get to the next slide. Sorry about that, Bill.
No, this is a tag team. So the next thing I want to talk about is we have a business damage reporting tool. We call it BDART or PBC DART, or and then there's two other forms, if you will. There's the IDART and the BDART. IDART is the individual damage assessment tool, and the BDART is the business damage assessment tool. And they're on our website there if you just follow those links. But they're downloadable, and they're on your cell phone. And there's a lot of good information on the phone on that app. So first of all, having every one of your employees download that app, there's two phases to the app. Number one, there's a pre-storm. There's a prepared element, if you will, to the app, where there's all kinds of information about evacuation zones, shelters, how to make a plan, what should be in your kit, how to get involved, all that kind of good stuff. And then then there's all kind, and then after the storm, there's information about where locations of gas stations that are still in business, generated gas stations, generated grocery stores, and whatnot. The DART program, the DART app that you have right there, those are screenshots of it. Shows you where how you can find out what evacuation zone you're in, if you are in an evacuation zone. And again, as you see the first slide, the first screenshot there is the before emergency, all kinds of good pre-storm preparedness information. And then of course, after the emergency, again, all the grocery and buildings, the Home Depots, open gas stations. And then there's the damage reporting tool, where it's just a real simple thing where you report, low, moderate, high, or extensive damage. And it works for both homes and businesses. And we use this information, and again, both damage and flood levels. And we use this damage reporting, it's not intended to be an insurance reporting tool. It's not intended to be a reporting tool to cry for help. Please, by all means, if you need help, you should dial 911. This is a way of us seeing, getting a quick snapshot of where the damage is in the county. What will happen is that those with extensive damage will get a red dot. Those with high damage will get a orange dot. And those with a moderate damage will get a green dot, and those with no damage will get a blue dot. And what we're going to look for is those clusters of red dots. And then that's where we're going to send teams out with resources those are going to be our hot spots, because we won't be able to get a helicopter back into town for about a day at least. So using this tool helps us do a kind of a countywide a survey of where the hot spots are and where we can send that. We've done that several times now with Irma, Michael, and even Dorian, and we're able to target those areas that were most damaged. And again, the B dart is a tool just like the I dart, which is the individual damage assessment tool. The B dart is for businesses, and the pictures are different. It looks like a warehouse instead of a home, but the same kind of thing. And it helps us again understand those areas that are like the downtown urban areas and stuff as well. So we ask that you take a part and you take part in that process as well. Next slide.
Great. Thank you, Bill.
I'll skip over this part really quickly because I know, but I did want to put this in the presentation because I know that there's going to be there might be questions about it. Just suffice to say that we are, again, I know that this is a group of business folks, but I know that some of your employees may have to go to shelters. And so I just want to point out to them that we are making every possible effort to make our shelters as safe as possible in light of the COVID pandemic. And we are doing a lot of strategies to do what we can to enhance our social distancing and provide masks and hand sanitizer. We're going to look at we're going to closely monitor how the census within our shelters. As we see that shelters start to fill up, we may, for example, start diverting people to less populated shelters, and so that we don't get shelters too filled. We believe that we have plenty of capacity. We don't need, it's not that easy finding new shelters, but for example, during Dorian, we had 17,000 people go to shelters. We currently have capacity for 55,000 people. So we have plenty of capacity. So it's just a matter of if a shelter starts getting too crowded, we'll just kind of rearrange people. So, and then we'll do things like staggering the feeding period. So in other words, it used to be just open it, we're gonna have lunch around noon, and then people will just line up. Well, we obviously, for social distancing, we'll do it in shifts, if you will. So there are a lot of things that we'll do to, again, try to maintain as safe as possible process within our shelters to make sure that people who need to evacuate won't decide not to evacuate because of the pandemic.
Well, I think we might see a lot of that. I know that there's been some stubborn people in the past that, down in the Keys that say, I'm staying here. We're not, we're not leaving. And I always say, I hope they have real sturdy homes on stilts down there, which I don't know if that even makes sense, right? But, I am sure that over the past few months with the pandemic that your office has been, really insane busy trying to figure this all out, right? Because this is, you have a plan, and now the plan is completely changed with COVID. Is that fair to say?
Well, again, I don't think the plan is completely changed. Again, my 4 rules, have a plan, build a kit, stay involved, and be informed. Those 4 elements haven't changed. And
It was
my
more of a modification for the
yeah,
show.
yeah, but again, we just modified it. You're right. So we're going to we'll have a stock of, or a cache of masks there. And I still would like to have people bring their own masks because, you in theory should, should change your mask at least every day or every other day. So, I don't know that I'm going to have a lot of, I'm not going to have millions and millions of masks, but, I think it would be, so I ask people to bring their own mask, to bring their own hand sanitizer, but we will have those added supplies. We are going to look to, it'll take us some creativity. We used to just mark out squares on the floor now, but we can't do that now, because what we're going to have to start doing is we have to build in some flexibility. We have to kind of design the floor so that families are now 6 feet apart. So we'll have to find some additional areas within the school, so maybe move people out in the hallways for a while, and then during the height of the storm, bring them in. we'll be cleaning the bathrooms and high contact areas more frequently. So again, yeah, modifications to the plan, but again, for the most part, the plan is still the plan. If you need to, yeah, if you need to evacuate, the options are still the same. One, stay within county. If you have to evacuate, don't go miles, not hundreds of miles. So stay in county, go to a family member's home, friend's home, co-worker's home. If you don't have any one of those options, go to a hotel. If that's not an option, then come to one of our shelters.
And I appreciate that. So it sounds like one of the most important things is if you're in that evacuation zone, still evacuate. It's going to be the county is providing a safe place if needed.
Correct. So I think you can skip. Oh, the only other thing is that if you are feeling sick when you come to a shelter, we will not refuse your admission. We may, we'll do some screening. We may take your temperature, and if you're not feeling well, we might move you to a separate area so that you wouldn't contaminate the others. And again, that way we can assure the safety of the remaining population and provide whatever assistance that you might need, and we might deliver meals to those folks. So again, a little bit of tweaking here and there, but again, for all intents and purposes, the plan is the plan.
Great. So there's not that much different in reality when you really look at it, and I know that, we just have to make some modifications to keep everybody safe. And I will tell you, working all over the state and the county, and I'm not just saying this because you're on here or because this is my home and I love Palm Beach County, but this county and the resources that you have are top notch. I've looked at a lot of different websites, and then you have the app, reporting tool. I don't think I've seen, I'm sure there's some counties that have it, but I haven't seen that in some of the counties that I've worked in. But we should feel really safe here in reality. When I think about this and I look at the whole thing that the emergency management department's doing, you guys really have us ready. I think the biggest problem we may have is getting that information out where people hear it. I don't know if that makes sense, right? So, because there's so much that we can only do. There's only so many ways that we can inform people. But if I wasn't in the business, I'm not sure. I spend hours and hours and hours researching things, so I find a lot. But the novice isn't going to find some of this stuff. But the way that Palm Beach County has it set up with these links, and just so everyone knows, I'm going to share these links. I'm going to do a follow-up email. Please know that the county's here to help you, right. and there's a lot of resources there.
We don't like to toot our horn too much, so we're kind of a humble group. But I will admit that I have a tremendous staff. It's a small staff, but it's a very hardworking staff. They're very competent, and I'm very, very honored to be a member of that. And I think we're an accredited agency, and that doesn't come by very easily. And I think that sets us ahead of a lot of different groups. So I hope that our residents and as well as our business leaders feel a bit more comfortable at night when they go to bed, knowing that they have got a strong public safety team behind them.
Well, they should. Based on what I've seen and all the research I've done, great job, and thank you. Is there anything else that you want to talk about here?
I think this is where you take over.
This is it. All right. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate it. And I did want to throw that in there, that everything I've seen is Palm Beach County's top notch there with the information and resources out there. All right. So developing a workplace emergency plan, so now we're getting ready for this, have your staff planning, help them prepare their home. I'm going to take something that Rick Morrell talked about years ago. If you don't know Rick, he's the CEO of Tropical Shipping, and him and I are working on a disaster resiliency committee to help our community be more resilient during crises and disasters. And one of the things he said to me was, John, the most important thing you can do when you're planning your workplace is let the staff get their home ready first. So apparently at Tropical Shipping, when a hurricane is coming, they tell their staff to go home and get their homes ready and then come back and plan on staying at Tropical, for the duration. And I think that's important. If you think about it, I've seen it personally where, people say, well, listen, we have to take care of all our clients before you take care of your home. And the staff, the people were not 100% in it. They were thinking about, oh my gosh, I have to go take care of my mom's house and my grandmother's house and my business. So they weren't really focused on taking care of business. They were more thinking about their home. So if they have their home in order, makes it a little easier. And then prepare your location for flooding and roof leaks. And what I mean by that is, take plastic, assume that the roof is going to leak, and assume you're going to have a flood. That's what I want people to think about, is that just assume that. And if a flood came in and went 2-3 feet, what would that look like? What would be damaged? And do everything you can to mitigate that. Any of your technology, your computers, get everything covered. Then have a communication plan for your customers and your staff. What is that? Have a go-to person. Have a person that is the main point of accountability for the staff, and then who's going to contact the customers. I'll go back. I remember when it was either Francis or Gene. I can't remember which one, because they happened and I was in the technology world. And I remember somebody called me and they needed something for a piece of equipment. And it was literally a day or two after the storm had hit. And they contacted me, and I was able to go reach out to them and help that customer. That customer really appreciates when you go above and beyond during a disaster. So make sure that you have a great communication plan to let your customers know what you're doing when you're open. You should be really doing it now, even with COVID-19. My wife was telling me about how she has people that she works with, whether it's a hairdresser or people like that she has one person that keeps updating her every day. Or every week, telling them what's going on and the precautions they're taking. And then she has someone else that hasn't even reached out to them. So it's important. Make sure you notify your customers of what's happening, what your plan is, and your staff. And then have plans with contractors to protect your property. What you want to do is make sure that, you call your IT company. Make sure your IT company, what are they going to do? If I'm down, what's going to happen? Most people nowadays, everything is so remote, even more so now than it was even 6 months ago. What are you going to do to make sure that once there's power, you can up and running? And then, of course, obviously, with the mitigation that we talked about earlier. All right, so make sure you're ready. We want to make sure you're ready. Know your risk. Find out if you're in a flood zone. Make sure if you're in these evacuation plans and what routes are they. Make sure that you're ready for that, for your business and your home. So, a lot of people forget about the business side of it. Businesses that are on the barrier island, you got to make sure, like Bill was talking about, have IDs, be able to get ready to get back onto those areas to check out your property to make sure that it's okay. Make sure, we talked about this last month, have your insurance policy reviewed by a professional, sometimes a third party. But again, if you're comfortable with your agent, talk to your agent. But there's a lot of things that can be missed in an insurance policy. I was just talking to somebody earlier today, and they were telling me about the gaps with the COVID, with the business interruption insurance and things like that. That there's a word or two in these policies that can make a difference whether or not you're covered. So you want to make sure you get that. Then a pre-storm property assessment. It's very important. You want to make sure to document your property, flood zones and how they impact you. Just really know where those flood zones are. I know that, we talked about it a little bit, but even today, you look outside, there's a lot of flooding. Be careful. It's dangerous out there. Develop your workplace emergency plan, which we talked about. Make sure you have your supplies. I've been here all my life, so I have a system pretty much down pat that by the time June 15 hits, I have everything I need for storm season. I start, some people think I'm crazy, but I actually start this in like March, April, where every time I go to Costco, I buy something. And, this way I'm not hit with, a $500 or $1,000 bill. So I kind of absorb it. Each time I go to Costco, I'll pick up extra water. Every time I go to Costco, I'll buy batteries, just every time, just one at a time. And then I'll take my kit out. I started my generators this weekend. Actually, it's the first weekend of the month. It should have done it last week or this past weekend, but this weekend I take my generators out. I start them up. I get them ready. Make sure the fuels. I have. Hey, don't be mad here, Bill, but I do have chainsaws, right? But I know how to operate them. I operate them safely, but I check all my chainsaws, make sure that I'm ready to go. And then also looking around my property. What am I going to do with the things that can fly around during a storm on my property? So make sure you have all your supplies ready to go. All right, we have a few minutes left for some Q&A. Do we have any questions? I think I'll turn it over to Brittany.
John, if I could just add, the supplies, but also think about your business as well. Think about, having kind of a command post, if you will, at your business in terms of what will happen during and after a disaster. So when you're coming back into, business, how you're going to get your business back into full operation. For example, we, at the beginning of hurricane season, we put in our entire year's worth of photocopier toner supplies so that we know that we'll have plenty of toner. And then we always order extra, paper. We order extra office supplies. So we do a lot of that kind of stuff so that if we have to do, that kind of what you'll need to do if you're going to have people come back in the office, to get the business back on running, odds are pretty good that, you don't want to be doing it on one toner cartridge. You're going to need to have multiple. So that would be the kind of thing that you'd want to have in your business disaster. Yeah. And what about radios? If you've got a campus or if your business, is a big area, do you have radios? Do you have extra radios in case the employees leave them at home or they get lost or damaged and those kinds of things? That's the kind of stuff that you want to work through so that you're not paralyzed by those kinds of oversights in your recovery plan.
It's funny you mentioned toner because I actually worked for HGI Technologies and it was one of our customers that said, hey, our toner, we ran out of toner. We don't have a backup. And it was a day after the storm and they were trying to print stuff out for their customers. And so we ran to the office and was able to grab them some toner. So that's too fun. All right. Brittany, do we have any questions?
We do. First question is, you had mentioned, this is for Bill, you had mentioned an app. Could you re-explain that app one more time just so everyone knows and they can share it?
Sure. We have two programs. One app is called PBC DART. PBC is Palm Beach County DART, Disaster Assessment and Reporting Tool, and it's on Google and Apple, and it's free, downloadable, and that's the individual. But then there's John said that he'll send out the links to the business app that you can get, so we'll send that out as well. But there's you can use the PBC DART app as well. That would apply. It's just the business one has different pictures. It's the same thing. The other app that I want to talk about is Alert PBC, and that's our alert and notification app. That is a app that you can sign up for where we will alert you on your phone of a variety of different hazards and emergencies. So if there was severe weather coming, it's not like your weather app from the news stations per se, but it will alert you of tornado alerts. It's like it replaces your those old weather radio kind of things, and it's location friendly. So you could have, for example, I live in Boynton Beach and I work here in West Palm Beach, so I have signed up for both municipalities. So you can sign up for, and if your parents live in in Boca or wherever, you could sign up for them as well, for that one as well, kind of thing. So it's very, very flexible and downloadable, and again, that's on our website as well. It's called Alert PBC.
Yeah, and it's great and easy to download and set. Yeah, I think you can set multiple cities. I believe I did. I think I set like 5 or 6 multiple cities. Now, question for you, Bill, on this one: does that would that be? Let's say there was a riot. Would it notify us to stay away from a certain area?
Well, we used it this weekend, so the answer is yes.
Yep. So it's not just for weather; it could be for other emergencies that are out there. And
all 14 of our hazards.
Yeah. So, hate to bring that up, but unfortunately, it's where we're at today. All right, great, thank you, Brittany. Did we have any other questions? I know we're almost out of time here.
Yeah, we'll take. I've got a few more, so let me just look through. Do you subcontract your work out, or are you doing the work yourself as the business owner?
So that must be probably a question for me, Bill. Yeah, so at R&R Industries, we do sub some of the work out, but all of the emergency mitigation repairs for roofing and things like that, that's all our in-house crews. We have over 100, roughly 100 employees and staff ready to go. Our own trucks, our own cranes. So yeah, we're fully staffed for that. But there is some of the work that would be subcontracted out, mostly for the manpower, and plus you want third party for insurance purposes to also do some of the work for you when it comes to mitigation and doing a dry out. For insurance purposes, it's best to subcontract that out. So hopefully that answered their question.
Wonderful.
Brittany, can I just interrupt for a second? The website to sign up for Alert PBC is www.alertpbc, all one word, .com. alertpbc.com.
Okay. Just put that in the chat for everyone to be able to copy and paste.
Thank you very much.
Okay, one more question. Is there a service to document your property now?
Yes, so we have at R&R Industries, we do have what we call a pre-storm property assessment. And that assessment we'll come out, document the property for what it is existing, mostly exterior parts of the property, but if there's lobbies, we'll go inside and take some photos for you. At this time, there's no charge for that either. For the time being, we usually do charge for it, but right now we're running, since we're starting a brand new division, R&R is doing it at no cost. But yeah, what you want to do is it's pretty much a 10-page document that you'll be able to use to protect yourself, to show what the property looked like before the storm hit, because a lot of times in insurance, you'll hear them say that that was a pre-existing condition. Nothing better than proof of what it looked like right before the storm.
Wonderful. Okay, so just to confirm a couple of things, John, your email up there is john@rrindustriesdaytona.com. And the next Hurricane Preparedness webinar will be on July 1st.
Yes.
So everyone mark their calendars for that. I believe we have the topic for that day. Is that correct, John?
Yeah, the topic is going to be after the storm. It's basically what it's going to be, what to do after a disaster and after a hurricane. And I'm real excited. I did get confirmation that I'm going to have international speaker, best-selling author Chip Merlin is going to join us. And I'll have all that information going out. He finally confirmed with me yesterday that he is available that date. So we're pretty excited about that. I'll have all that information sent out to everybody soon. So that's going to be an exciting one. If I don't know if anyone here knows Chip, but he is, when it comes to what they call first party law, he's one of the best in the industry.
Wonderful. Well, thank you, gentlemen, both for your time today and your expertise. I know as Floridians, this is just really good information to know and be refreshed on, because it does happen every year. And some years we get luckier than others. So fingers crossed this year will be lucky as ever.
So
I wanted to,
Palm Beach, yes.
yeah, absolutely. Wanted to share a couple of upcoming events. Definitely mark your calendars for July 1st for the next hurricane webinar. We do have our weekly tech toast happening tomorrow at 4 o'clock. The theme is leadership themed on the importance of values in an organization. We will have our new member orientation, which is also available for current members of the chamber, Friday morning at 8 o'clock. Next Tuesday, we'll have our Successful Connections Chamber 101, which is a brand new event, so get excited for that for our members. And then our webinar next week will be talking about building business and relationships during coronavirus times. So stay tuned for that information. Please take a look at our website, pbnchamber.com. And again, I just wanted to thank you both, Bill and John, for your time today and your expertise. And everyone, have a great rest of your Wednesday and a great rest of your week.
Thank you. Thanks again, Bill. Greatly appreciate it. And Mike, thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, and of course,
Everyone, be healthy.